Junks, and we're grateful to have him and his influence in our department. He will introduce the course and a little bit of background, and then turn the time over to his students who will be showcasing their work. So Jeff, take it away.
All right, thank you. So I see a lot of familiar faces, so it's good to see previous students pop up here. This is my first year teaching 660, and my goal into going into 660 was to really continue what we were learning in 560. So in 560, we covered a lot of course authoring. We covered storyline. We covered Captivate. We covered some HTML5 as well. But I felt like there was a missing part of that, because that's just one part of when you're creating courses and you get courses online. The second part is actually getting them online and getting them to work inside of a learning management system and becoming familiar with the learning management system and how to assign courses, how to manage tasks and other things like that. And then to really explore a fairly new technology called XAPI as well. So that was my goal coming into 660, and we split up the semester into those 3 different groups. And so the first part, we created some custom HTML5 courses, and then we learned JavaScript in order to send over SCORM commits, and SCORM is the way that you communicate from the course to the LMS. And so we learned SCORM to send over the information to the LMS. And then we learned about an LMS called Bridge, which our second group will show you that. And then after that, we started learning XAPI. So XAPI allows you to track a lot more than what you can do with SCORM. And that's really why we wanted to explore that. And so we'll cover some of that as well. So I've split up the class into 3 different groups. The first group will talk about SCORM and JavaScript, and that's Sarah, Kelly, and Spencer. The second group will talk about learning management system, the Bridge learning management system. That will be Abby and Ben. And then the last group will be talking about tracking learning in greater detail with XAPI, and that will be David and Kayla. So sounds like Kelly's going to be the first one to talk in the first group, so I'll just go ahead and turn that over to him.
Okay, great. Thanks for that introduction, Jeff. I'm going to share my screen here so that you can kind of see some of the code that we've been working on. So from 560, we learned how to do a lot of stuff in Storyline and Captivate. And as Jeff was saying, the next extension onto that was to learn JavaScript and actually make those courses that we build custom. And with JavaScript, you have a lot of ability to be able to dynamically change text, work with the data, capture data, and work with that, and then take it and with reporting it to SCORM, have it show up in the LMS. So looks like my share is being a little slow here.
Kelly, are you frozen?
Jeff, I was up next. Should I just go?
The course to report scores.
There we are. Kelly?
Is it not showing up?
No, it's not showing up, and you kind of got out there for a little bit.
It's coming, it's just really slow.
Hey, Kelly, while we get that figured out, let's just have Spencer go, just so we can keep it moving. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Kelly, I need you to stop sharing your screen. It isn't letting me jump in.
Yeah, it's like we're pulling up a window one pane at a time. So
Spencer, I just stopped the screen share, so you should be able to do it now.
okay, thanks.
It's still saying I can't.
Well, I'm not sure. Let me look up the advanced sharing options here. Try it now, Spencer.
There we go. All right, so you should see my little presentation up here. Does that look about right?
I'm still seeing the message alert that says Kelly has started sharing his screen. I don't see
what everyone should do is up at the top of your screen, you'll see a green, this green bar saying that the screen is being shared, and there's a little drop-down menu next to it called View Options. If you click that View Options, you can bounce to Spencer's screen. It looks like there's some kind of technical problem that's Kelly's screen share is not turning off. So I'm going to try to troubleshoot that. Well, if everyone can just jump to Spencer's screen in the meantime as a backup.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Spencer.
Cool. All right, so Jeff mentioned briefly this little section is about something called SCORM, and it's something you've probably heard of before, but just to reiterate, it's a set of JavaScript HTML commands that allows you to build learning experiences custom from scratch, and then have those experiences communicate with the learning management system like Bridge or Canvas or I don't know, something like that. So you're able to track how learners are using it. You can customize what data you collect and in what ways. And so I'm just going to show you a little bit about how you can do that. So you should see like my screen here. It just says the Archer, which is the name of my course. It's for a startup company that I've technically not started up, but I'm trying to. So more to come on that. But I'm showing you what a quiz question can look like. So here's a little true-false quiz question. You can submit a question and answer and get a response, whether it's right or wrong. And then you can also do something with a fill in the blank. And so you can see if what someone typed in the right question or not. But on the back end inside the code is that you can create these functions with these SCORM references that will send this information into your learning management system so you can track it and see what it looks like. So on the back end of that, this is a rudimentary dashboard, but you can see that someone took my course, how long it took them, what the scores were, whether they passed it or not. And then also you can see exactly what they did in terms of those specific, in my case, questions that you can look at. So what the responses they were, what the score they got was, what kind of question, what were the answers they entered for the fill in the blanks. And so you can get a lot of information about what your learners are doing, what they're learning, and what results they're getting. And I think I'll pass the baton to Sarah, hopefully. Does that sound about right?
Great, thanks, Spencer. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen now. All right, are you able to see that?
Yep.
So this is what Spencer was just showing. SCORM Cloud is just a place where we can test these things. So you can launch the course from here. If it will launch. There we go. So I'll just go through this pretty quickly. The main part I'm showing you is a few different HTML things you can add to these custom courses that can then transfer over into that SCORM that we were showing. So a lot of these come
Hey, Sarah, I
from,
don't think we're seeing your pop-up.
okay, maybe, let's see.
Maybe what you shared was the actual browser and not the screen.
Yeah. Okay, can you see it now?
Yep.
Great. So this is the course, and I'm highlighting the different elements you can do with video. You can, HTML allows you to add, let's see, different elements to make video interactive. So I'll just skip to that part, and you can see, so as a student is watching a video, we'll wait a few seconds, and different interactive elements can pop up. So here's a first example. This just pops up like a little info box that you can see. And then you can allow them to continue watching the video. And then you can also add more interactive questions that can then transfer over to that SCORM that Spencer was showing us. So you can click here and submit the answer, and I have it set up so they see whether it was correct or not right away. And so those are just a few interactive things you can do with video. And then once you've done that, you're able to go back and see. And as a tester, you can also go into each session to make sure your code is working and transferring over. And you can see that that question did pass through the user. So those are just a few interactive things you can do with video. I don't know if Kelly wants to try again or move on to the next group.
Yeah, let me try again here. Okay, did it come
We
up?
can see it. Yep.
Okay, here in mine, I just did, this is an example of how JavaScript can be used just to capture some data, just through a simple name bar.
Kelly, we're not seeing the pop-up though.
What are you seeing?
Just like diagonal lines. I think when you share your screen, did you select to share the whole screen?
I did initially, but this last time I just did the browser.
Maybe stop sharing and select your whole screen.
Okay. All right, let's try this again. Sorry, everyone. I don't mean to be difficult here. Well, I can just talk through. Basically, if you capture data, you can store that in a variable within JavaScript. And then using the inner HTML JavaScript code, you can put it back out in place of something else. And by doing that, you have control over the data that you've captured and also that you display. We found that in the examples that we did, there's just some amazing stuff that you can do. Can you see my code now?
Yeah.
Okay, so like here's the class that we could do. The second one that I did is I actually had the members of a class log in The assignment was we had to use an array to do that. So right here, I'm taking the class value and pushing it onto the array. And then using this for loop, I'm going through and actually displaying each member of the class as they log in back to the browser. And that was a very effective way to present stuff. And it gives you a lot of interactivity. And then here's the course that I did it with. And you can just log in different names here, and they'll just show up underneath with who's in the class based on the stuff that you put in. So if you put in a different name and hit login, then they'll just log them right in. So JavaScript, very powerful, and it just takes what we know from Storyline and Captivate and just takes it to the very next level. And it's been very good. So I think that's it for our team. We will turn it over to the team that's doing the LMS. So thank you.
Okay, so that's Abby and Ben.
Gotcha. Okay. Just for the sake of functionality, I'm going to go ahead and stop my video just to make sure that that doesn't cause a problem. And I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully all of you will be able to see it here. So you should see a funny little llama-like picture, right? Has everybody got that? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
All right. So for our section, we're going to be talking to things about the learner experience. And rather than just lecture about the LMS, we're going to present some examples of how an LMS system can be used to empower an organization. So as Jeff mentioned, we'll be using the Bridge application for this purpose, and we'll run through an example dialogue between Abby, who will be our employer, and myself, who will be an employee. And when we finished, we'll invite you to reflect about what we've presented.
Sounds good. Hi, Ben. Great to have you on board. Let's take a look at your career plan first.
Sounds good. Is it all right if I pull it up now?
Yep. So it looks like you've already completed your first career goal. Let's have you add another skill to work on now.
Okay, let me go over here. I want to choose project management. I think if I finish my project on time, that would be a great goal. So one thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I set a date. So this is finish on time. And let's choose tomorrow. I think we can do that. I think that's the only goal I need for now.
Awesome. That does sound like a great goal. Now can we take a look at your Everest plan?
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, having what they call the Everest plan. It allows me to put in some of my goals, my values, to be able to see really what my alignment with the company is like. So for example, in my personal vision statement, I wrote something that represents my outlook no matter my professional position. Everyone needs help sometimes, and I want to make sure I'm prepared to assist whenever I'm needed. I choose culture as my first driver because it feels really important to be comfortable at work. I want to make sure that my values and the company's values align as close as possible. I felt teammates were second because I expect a lot of what I'll be doing will involve others directly or indirectly. Helping others relates back to my vision statement. I feel a lot of satisfaction when I can help solve problems. A strong sense of purpose gives me something to focus on, my goals, responsibilities, etc. So when I know those, I will know how I can be effective at the company. Finally, money and rewards are important because I'm not just an employee, I'm part of a family as well. And when my basic needs are being met, I can focus more on what the company needs me to do. So at the pinnacle of my career, I'd like to be teaching others, but in order to do that, I need to improve my communication and adaptability. The better I communicate, the better I can teach. I need to be able to speak to someone's current understanding. This means I'll also need to be adaptable. That way I can respond to questions or teaching methods based on my audience's reaction. Sharing this information with you should help you to better understand who I am, what my drivers are, and how I can be effectively used at the company.
Awesome. Thanks for filling that out and letting me know more about you. Now let's review the learning library. This is where you can find all of the courses you need to succeed in the organization. So here we have organized our courses under categories. At our organization, we've organized them this way. We have some mandatory courses, optional courses, recommended courses, suggested courses, and upon request courses. Of all the courses you took, which one did you like the best?
I think I enjoyed the I Am Groot course the best.
Can you tell me about what you learned in that course?
Yeah. So taking the course was actually quite intuitive. It was really simple just to get started. I just clicked on the Begin Course button here, and I'm good to go. So I was welcomed to the course and introduced to Professor Groot. When I'm finished with each page, I can continue on to the next one just by clicking the Continue button here. In the course, I found that there were multiple media options, including pictures and video. That really helped me understand what I was being taught. Then I was given the meat of the course. But the following video helped. Once I finished the course, I was invited to take a simple assessment to see how much I learned. There were different question types, and all I did was submit the answers. I was immediately notified when I got some questions correct or incorrect. There was multiple choice questions. There is a select an order question. There were even fill in the blank question. All in all, it was pretty intuitive.
Awesome. Thanks for walking me through your favorite course. Now can you go to the course progression page? So this is where we can see the course progression for the whole organization. We can see attempts to pass, who is required to retake, and the average score.
Wow. Well, I guess there's no hiding amongst the crowd here.
Nope. Okay, now let's go to the live trainings page. So we brought you on because you know the difference between GIF and GIF. So we can assign you to teach some live trainings on that subject now. Do you want to schedule some times that work for you?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I'll just click on a session here and start a new session of live training. That way I'll be able to decide how many people I want to attend. And in this case, I think I might want to just start out with just 20 people available. We'll have the time be 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. tomorrow. That should probably be fine. But we are going to be doing it online, so I want to make sure I notify people that it is a Zoom meeting. And I do want to make sure that I collect who attended when it was launched. Other than that, I think everything else looks fine for now, so I'll go ahead and I'll publish this live training. And it should appear up here on my dashboard. Here I've got the meeting set up. Now, if I needed multiple sessions, I could easily click on adding another session, changing the date, let's say to Friday, same time. Make sure they know we're still in quarantine here on Zoom, and we'll go ahead and publish. That should also appear in my dashboard.
Great. I'm excited to attend one of those sessions. Thanks, Ben. Next time, we'll set up a one-on-one meeting and add that to our calendars.
Okay, so that ends our little role play of employer-employee. Through it, we demonstrated some of the features of the LMS and how they can help each member of an organization take responsibility for their own progression. One thing I'd like you to do is consider how you would use a tool like this. If you owned a company, or whether you were a teacher even, or for whatever application you can think of, how could you use the functionality of this LMS to create a meaningful experience for your learner? I'll give you about 20 seconds to think about it, and then I'm going to just start randomly calling on people to share some thoughts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share then. All right, I'm going to call on Brett, sir, if you don't mind, tell me, what are your thoughts? What is the potential you see in using a system like this?
Well, it can help you track in detail what different employees have done in terms of training. And I think you can avoid some of the problems that normal corporate trainings have, where you can just retake tests multiple times and just, get whatever, get it right because you've just figured it out by process of elimination, because it allows you to see in detail what each person has done and the number of retakes.
Cool. I think I agree. Let's go to Melissa. What do you think? Professor Larson, please.
You make me nervous when you say, I think I agree. Does that mean that was a wrong answer?
No, there's no right or wrong. It just may be that there are some things I haven't thought in depth of about enough for me to come up with my own solid conclusion.
So I don't actually, like, I work with students and like an LMS, and I see this like as like an employer. So I haven't really worked in that role other than we did do some trainings when I was a manager, and I'm kind of with Brett in terms of being able to track and to see their engagement and see where they're at and what they're doing and to customize that way.
Okay, let's invite one more. Let's do my friend Karen, if you don't mind sharing a little moment or two of your thoughts.
I knew you were going to do that, Ben. I think as a look at this application as part of a public school teaching and teaching an English course. I've always wanted to be able to have students read whatever books they wanted to, and to be able to individualize and personalize the way you did with Abby was really interesting to see, where I could see where I could help students find books that are appealing to them. I could help put them in groups with other students who might have the same kind of goals or the same kinds of weaknesses that they wanted to work on. I love the idea of having the one-on-one interviews that you could do anytime, anywhere. I think there's a lot of applications as far as just teaching in any kind of situation.
Cool. So let me invite, because of time, we only have a couple minutes left, so let me invite you to think about one more question. And that is, after seeing what you've seen, do you think a learner or an employee or whoever would be interacting with this system would be more willing to do so? Do you think this online solution is a good application of learning, teaching, and tracking? Or should we all just go back to a paper and pencil method? Brett, go ahead. I see the hand.
I think it really depends on the management and how much the management's invested in using the software. If they use it and give follow-up, and that's kind of where they go to manage their company, and the employees know that, then that'll be very effective.
Okay. I'm going to reach out to another friend of mine. Dwayne, would you mind sharing a thought or two?
Sorry, my internet died, and so I missed what you've been talking about. So I don't know if I have anything meaningful to add what you've been sharing. I just barely got back on. I'm sorry, Ben.
No worries. Then if I'll do anything, I'll just say Dwayne is a great guy. You should all get to know him, so I'll call attention to him anyway. Let's go over to Kayla. Kayla Bowman. Lay it on us.
I think it's super useful. I've been at a company where they said that education was really important, but then they didn't track it. And that disconnect was really weird for me because they wanted me to do it, but then they weren't following up really on how I did it or what I learned. So I think Bridge can be really powerful for capturing what learners do and kind of showing them like, this is all that you've accomplished. So I liked it for that reason.
Okay. Finally, let me invite our instructor, Jeff. Would you mind just sharing a quick opinion about how organizations use Bridge or other LMS systems to make a more meaningful impact in their company?
Yeah. So I'm now back at the church, but I still help consult with a company that I was working with called Thomas Arts. And when I got there, they're a marketing agency. When I got there, they had no LMS whatsoever. So they were really trying to push a learning management system where they were really trying to push learning, but they had no way to track it. So after consulting with them and talking with them about different learning management systems, we landed on Bridge, and that's how I became familiar with Bridge as well. And some of the culture that I was fighting against when I first got there was like, no, we don't have time for learning. We're driven by clients, we're driven by deadlines and everything like that. So it was really kind of a culture shift to get people to become familiar with Bridge and the benefit of Bridge. I had some people that really caught the vision at first, but then it took a while for other people. And one thing that we did to implement people just going to it was we established like a little a challenge, a learning challenge where we had, okay, for every 30 minutes you spend in Bridge, and then we integrated LinkedIn Learning with that as well. So every 30 minutes you spend in Bridge, you get an entry to a drawing at the end of the month, so you can win like a $100 gift card, $50 gift card, and so forth. And just for that alone, just incentivizing people to say, hey, you might win a gift card, our numbers shot up. And we only had to do that for the first couple months, because after that, people were just, they got used to Bridge, they started using Bridge, they started using LinkedIn Learning, and they started using the career path, they started using Everest and other things like that, where they saw the benefit of that. So we had to take a little bit of incentive, monetary incentive for people to initially start to use it. But I think after that, they've started to really catch on to it, and we had good feedback from there. So
great, thank you very much. That concludes our portion of the presentation, although I do need to say one thing, is that I was thinking about calling on Dale and I totally spaced it, so dang it, Dale, you dodged a bullet. Okay, I think the next group is David and Kayla. Please go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Thanks for the audience participation. That was fun to participate in your section as well as my own. So we're talking about XAPI, and we wanted to start with a video. So I'm going to turn off my video and then share my screen. Is everyone hearing that audio? I did something wrong. Sorry. Give me 1 second.
Introduction to XAPI.
About now.
You've probably heard of SCORM. With SCORM, you can only track a few things. Now that's helpful information, but there's so much more that those data points don't tell you. That's why XAPI was born. XAPI tells you what your users are doing in your course and what they're not doing. So, if you're looking to learn more about your learner, remember this one thing.
Okay, that was just a quick introduction to saying what we want to convince you right now during this presentation is how much more powerful XAPI is than SCORM in tracking data about your learner. David's going to actually show you his course in a minute and show you how you can do that. I just wanted to start with talking about the XAPI statement and what are the different elements that you put in there. So there are 3 parts of an XAPI statement that you actually have to have in the code. You have to have an actor. So you capture the user's name at the beginning so you can track, okay, who is doing these actions. And then the second part is a verb. And you can have, there's lists and lists of how many verbs that you can have. They're, downloaded or answered or so many different things that you can't track in SCORM. And the third part is an object. So you have to figure out, okay, what did the actor download or what did they answer? So I have an example here of Mario downloaded the video, and that's something you can't track with SCORM. And what's cool about XAPI is you can always capture the actor, but you can have so many different verbs and different objects and track all of that information in your learning management system. So I am now going to turn the screen back to David so that he can show his course, and I hope everybody likes sharks.
Hey, so we just wanted to illustrate just how much you can track with XAPI. So this is a basic course. I'm a big fan of like big crazy fish, so I did a course on river monsters. And the way we're going to show you is we have these alerts up top to show you every time an XAPI statement is sent over to the LRS. So right now you can see that a statement was sent over saying that the course was launched. And like Kayla mentioned, you have to have an actor. And so for this course, we decided to capture the actor here on the first page. And then throughout the course, we've defined the verbs and the objects that the actor is going to be interacting with. So if I click start, it says David started the course. And so these are the types of things being sent over to the LRS. And sometimes they're a little slow. But what's great with XAPI is the flexibility you have in what to track. So this is a simple tab interaction, and you can track whether the learner is interacting with the tab interaction. And if you set things up right, you can track whether they actually finished it. So I've clicked through every tab, and it sends through a second statement that says I actually finished the tab interaction. And so I've decided in my course to track every time I read a page, so I know exactly how much of the course a learner is interacting with. And what's cool is you're not limited. So on the past page, there was one type of tab interaction. Here's a second tab interaction, and you can track all of them through XAPI. And so I'm going to skip this one to continue moving. So this is what you call a carousel. You can track whether they go through the whole carousel. And it'll send over that second one saying that I finished the activity. And what's nice with XAPI is you can go pretty in depth with what you track with the questions. So I'm going to go through all of these questions and then show you exactly what's being tracked in the LRS. So I have some questions here that you can submit. It says I answered it correctly. Sometimes it's a little slower. This one was incorrect. You can track what you enter. And then you can even track certain interactions with the video. So I'm going to turn the sound off, but then I'm going to hit play. And as you can see, it shows whether I played the video or not. And we are going to go ahead and watch it because there's some things that are tracked when it's paused. So when you hit a certain point in the video, it pauses it. You can see it pause the video. You can submit the question and then hit play again. And it tracks all of that. So there's a wide variety of things that you can track with XAPI. And what's really nice is it'll even tell you that right here that I actually watched the whole video. So this could be useful where if you create a training video or something, if people are only getting to a certain point in the video, you can take note of that. And you can also send over the completion just like you can in SCORM. So all of those pop-ups were statements being sent over to this LRS. So if you hit refresh, this is all the information that we gathered just from that one walkthrough of the course. And when you go through and you click on some of these, this is all of the information that was being sent over. Like Kayla mentioned, the actor, the verb, and the object that was all being interacted with. And this seems like it's really difficult to set up, but there's a lot of cool resources to make it a little easier. This is one of the websites we were shown where you can input some information like the actor, the verb, and the object. And then you can generate the statement and you have it right there. And when you look over to the code, this is what it looks like. So this is the statement that we just generated, and we adjusted it to make it reusable so that with all of these statements that we tracked, we just really have to send over this one piece of information for everything we want to track. And this will be the last thing I show you. Kayla mentioned that there's an awful lot of verbs that you can use. And these are this is a database of all of the verbs. And so this is just the A's, and you can see here on this side just how long this list of verbs is. So XAPI is a lot more flexible. There's a lot more you can track, a lot more creativity that you can do with it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn the time back over to Kayla.
We just wanted to share one more quick thing that Jeff introduced us to. This is called an XAPI strategy document, and this is a sample one that I built for my portfolio. But because there's so much flexibility in XAPI and so many things you can do, it's helpful to have a document for your organization to say, okay, these are the verbs we're going to use in these specific situations. And just because sometimes there's synonyms for certain verbs, and you want to make sure that everything in your organization is streamlined. So there's just two parts that I wanted to point out really quickly, that as a part of XAPI, you have to give each course an ID. So it's helpful to have some sort of a naming convention or standard for how you're going to name your courses so that those can be consistent. And then also, as I was saying before, it's helpful to define how your organization is going to use certain verbs. So here I just picked out verbs that I thought would be used the most often. And then down here, you can have another section that's called verb scenarios, where you group certain verbs around specific activities. Like these 5 verbs will be used for video and audio. Or if I want to track whether a user engaged with an object or like an activity or ignored it, these are the verbs that I'm going to use in that case. So that is all that we had. We wanted to open it up to questions for our group or any of the other groups.
If I
really hey, Kayla.
Yeah.
There was a question in the chat that I don't know if it got answered. Maybe Jeff answered it, but there were some questions about parsing the data, using the data to improve the course.
Yeah, and I wanted to add a couple comments on that. So sending over the XAPI statements is just part one. Where they go is into this LRS. Now the LRS, as far as what you do with that data, you can do a lot. You can actually pull the data back into another course. I've done examples where I've personalized courses based off the information that I've gotten back. So you can personalize future courses and adapt future courses. You can create graphs, like your own custom graphs based off that data. Or if you have a learning record store, usually the paid versions will give you like graphs and charts, and you can start comparing the data between the two. You can also see, who's completed it, but you can see if people are completing the video or not. So the LRS is the side where it kind of gives you that data that makes it a little bit more actionable and insight, but you still have to come up with a strategy of how you're sending the data and what data you want to track as well. Hopefully that helps answer the question.
Kayla, I had one question about the last document you showed us. You have like all of the verbs that you're going to use, right? But I noticed that in some of the spots you had verbs that were duplicated, like you use past to mean 2 different things. Is that okay for your defining variables? That sheet is mostly just to organize yourself and the company, or is that going to have problems with the code later on?
So it won't have problems with the code. I think what you're referring to with the past thing, as long as you define and say, in this scenario, past is going to mean this, and in this scenario, past is going to mean that. Sometimes you're trying to find the right verb, and you kind of have to use it for more than one thing, but I think as long as it's defined in your document, then that kind of clears up that confusion.
I have a
Okay.
question. So if we use this for, let's say, trainings on a business or a company, is there a way that they can integrate it with Salesforce or another system, or is it just connected to certain systems?
I can answer that. So the XAPI data can actually be connected to a lot of different systems. The LRS itself can be fed into reporting dashboards like Tableau and other types of those reporting dashboards and combined with data from Salesforce. It could also be ingested into Salesforce. It would probably have to be reformatted in order to do it. But yes, the data, one of the nice things about the LRS compared to the LMS is the LRS data is a lot more transferable than the LMS data. And so the LMS data, if you're doing like an LMS migration, going from one LMS to another LMS, that data is hard to work with and migrate. But the LRS data, they wanted it open and more migratable than the LMS data had been in the past. So.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's give Jeff and his class a round of applause for their great work and the great insights they shared with us. You guys made it. You made it through another semester of seminar. Please remember there is a final seminar reflection in Canvas for you to complete. So when you go complete the quiz for this one, complete the one for the whole semester, as well as any other outstanding assignments you have. Please get those in right away so we can get the grades prepared and submitted. And best of luck to you on your finals, and everything else is finishing up. Heather is noting that there is a IP&T celebration that will be coming, so please check your email for that soon. It will be coming out some information about that as soon as we can get all the details put together. Thanks again, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon. Have a good afternoon.